Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to High on History. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Liz.
And today we are in part 2 of the Enlightenment. And today we're getting into the political side of it. And before we begin, definitely go back and check out the last video of the Enlightenment, our first video. And that will give you a concept of the core values of the Enlightenment. You'll also get a good idea of the religious movement behind the Enlightenment, as well as you get to check out the
modern despotism.
The modern despotism, as well as the enlightened religion, the enlightened thinkers, the enlightened rulers who tried to use the Enlightenment and have their cake and eat it too. Right. All the power, but nothing for the people.
Good stuff in there, good stuff.
Yeah,
we talked about utilitarianism.
We talked about the founding documents of North America. We found the founding documents.
We talked about the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of the Rights of Man.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about more cool documents today, too. Yeah.
And then we also did a brief criticism on modern application of Enlightenment because, oh boy, some of the extremities that actually came from the extreme thoughts and manipulation of what these genius men and women initially intended on. So, let's jump right in now to part 2 of the Enlightenment.
Love it, love it. What do you got for us?
So, Enlightenment philosophers sought to apply reason and logic to every aspect of life, as another quick little recap. Their ideas set the stage for many advancements, and yet, they are inarguably the greatest contributors to Western civilization, in the way that we examined the mechanisms of government, law, and justice. So that's what we're exploring today, is the political and constitutional theories that gave us democracy and the rights of man. Now, we're going to start off with John Locke. I studied Locke, actually, when I was in high school, and I didn't quite agree with him, or really, I guess, understand him. And going through this, this Enlightenment movement has really revamped what I learned in high school, and definitely have changed a lot of my perspectives. But John Locke, his influence and legacy cannot be overemphasized, and he argued that the legitimacy of government comes from the divine will of the people, which ultimately means that we as a citizen, as a people, give the government their rights to govern us. And yes, we do have to sacrifice a little in order to fund them, that is a thing that they did emphasize in the Enlightenment, is that we have to sacrifice a little for the government to be able
Everybody's supposed to be working towards the common good.
Yes.
We agree to the governance, and we and them are all supposed to work together towards the common good.
Yep.
So this is what Rousseau meant by the general will of the people.
Yep. And that Locke expanded on that by saying that we give the government the right in order to protect our natural rights.
Right.
And that
is the
liberty,
legitimate
property.
The legitimate purpose of government
is
to protect the natural rights of man. Yeah.
And so, let's see, the inherent rights. Sorry, these are typically... So we've switched up a little bit, and Liz is now writing all of the note cards after I do all the research. And we have completely different styles of how we read our notes and write our notes. Full sentences.
I do full sentences. You don't have to read them that way. They're just there to...
I know, but at the same time, your hand is teeny tiny and very fluey, curly. I love your handwriting, don't get me wrong.
I can write them bigger if you want.
It's okay. I should probably make my own set of note cards, truthfully, after I read yours. Anyways, back to this. So John Locke argued that human rights exist in the state of nature, and therefore we are governed by the laws of nature, and no one should be able to harm another's life or destroy or encroach on the liberties and possessions of others. These rights, Locke argued, belong to individuals for purely being human and being alive.
Simply being born and existing. That's it. That's all you need to
have the life, liberty, and property. And property is just a tiny little space to call your own. Because that's all we truly need to just be a happy little critter.
Right. But it does need to be your own.
Yeah, it has to be your own.
Now, I had, I think, an unfair... we'll get into it. I had a somewhat unfair critique of Thomas Jefferson switching property to pursuit of happiness because I thought it obscured the property part.
Yeah.
Then when I looked into it, he actually intended to expand on it. He sort of is taking property as the given there.
Right.
And going forward and saying you also have a right to fulfillment. I'm sorry, I skipped ahead.
You did a little bit, but to go on to that, in therapy, one of the foundation blocks that you need in order to actually start healing is to have a little piece of property for your own, whether you're renting it, whether you don't, you need to have some sort of house foundation. Mm-hmm. You need property to feel secure.
Yeah.
And so that is exactly why he expanded on the pursuit of happiness, because once you actually do have that tiny little space to call your own,
what you truly need is fulfillment.
And then you can truly fulfill yourself.
Right. Yeah. Pursuit of happiness is talking about fulfillment of purpose.
Yeah.
So he's actually expanding on property rights, although I still have the critique that to the modern ear it did obscure it. Absolutely.
So I already mentioned how the government was formed to protect the human rights of liberty, property, and life. And the government doesn't grant those to us. Let me emphasize that. Life, liberty, and property is not given to us by the government.
Those are your natural rights for simply existing. And the United States government was founded on that principle, actually.
And believe it or not, John Locke actually believed that people should resist and overthrow their government if they became tyrannical and encroached on our life, our liberties, and our properties. Oh boy, what's going on here? So John Locke, pretty much with those foundational beliefs, set the framework for the justification of the American Revolution and part of the French Revolution as well.
Yeah.
Now, as she mentioned with Thomas Jefferson and the pursuit of happiness, I think with that whole little side conversation, I think we nailed this card like nothing else.
Yeah, I did. I accidentally skipped straight to that. I made the point that I'd conclude in that card.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that card was completely done.
Sorry, so my bad.
It's okay.
Wow.
What? I'm trying to make sure I get everything. Okay, so this card says the remarkable effort of these ideas was the way they shifted the conversation away from the rights of collective institutions of the church and state instead to the rights of the individual citizen, which is actually a really important sentence. Excuse me.
You had bullet points to express that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It took me a minute to piece together what those bullet points
That's
meant.
why you go to Notebook.
Sorry.
I love you. But that's why you go to Notebook.
But it's still the sentence. Okay. The same thing.
And that this shifting of the conversation was the framework that also created the modern ideas for the rights and responsibility of the citizen. Again, shifting the government itself as a mechanism to protect our natural rights.
Which was, I admit, a fairly complicated way of saying that John Locke specifically was among those that helped shift the conversation away from what are the rights of the church and what are the rights of the government to what are the rights of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, since we've already discussed Voltaire, please go back to that episode. That was a brilliant episode on his biography. He rejected political absolutionism and the church dogma with a fiery resistance.
Oh, yeah.
Voltaire, I used to despise him for being chauvinistic, and very...
Which he was.
And he was. And he was very critical of ideals that I actually believed were still valid for the time. And I have come to love Voltaire. Voltaire is now, like, the epitome of the Enlightenment to me. I adore Voltaire.
I still have... I don't. I mean, I do... But also, he was such a man of privilege.
Oh,
and
God,
it
yeah,
shows.
It
and
does.
it
It does
shows.
show. And so, with his advocacy for the rights of the individual, he most famously said, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your rights to say it."
Maybe one of the
best quotes.
Best, and you know, it's often shorted, it's often slightly misquoted, but like the meaning remains intact.
Yeah.
And I love that you know, for as long as I have lived in the United States of America, vaguely misquoting Voltaire has been a vein of where
absolutely
average American citizens remain to this day.
Oh yeah.
I may disagree with every single thing that you say, but we have traditionally defended to the death our right for our opponents to speak.
Right.
Because it is important for the freedom of all. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Moving on.
Yeah.
We're on history, I swear.
And that comment that Voltaire had made was really in retaliation to the censorship from the church.
Oh, yeah.
To clarify, like, obviously us as Americans will fight to the death for it, but
the monarchy kept trying to censor things, and the pamphlets were a huge problem. So this was this massive cultural conversation in its time.
Right.
Pamphlets were such a problem.
Now, back to John Locke's contributions to the Enlightenment, and again, it cannot be overstated. Like Rousseau, he was also interested in the nature and education of children. Oh, we are finally to the topic that I have some crazy side story on.
I'm looking forward to this side story. I heard that there was a side story. I don't know the side story, so continue, please.
Ooh, that means you weren't paying attention to me because I told you all about it last night.
I know. I turned it out. I know who the side story has to deal with. That is as far as I got. I was writing my book.
I know. Okay, so now, out of a combination of Rousseau's general will and Rousseau's, what was his paper on children being innocent and free from civilization?
Oh, there were actually several. He wrote Emile and, He wrote about this quite a lot. So, just to sum up, Rousseau believed that children were born absolutely innocent, and that it is the expectations and the corruption of society which corrupts the nature of children. If you created an uncorrupted society, you would have uncorrupted adults, because children would never then be corrupted. So he has this beautiful idea that all children are born good, which we critiqued.
Right.
You know, he wasn't thinking in terms of genetics.
Right.
I don't think he was aware that sociopaths are born.
Sometimes,
You know, so...
Yeah.
I'll give him some credit for just not knowing, but he...
we also did a full episode on Rousseau, so
Yeah,
definitely
check that
pop
out.
back and check that one out too.
Yeah.
So
Locke takes this a little further, actually.
yeah, so Locke argued that a child's mind is a blank slate, and that all knowledge and morality is learned through their experiences. He argued that the skills and the habits can be learned and unlearned through a proper environment and a robust education. And that's card number 1. So when we got, so I was doing some research randomly. I wasn't even researching. I was more like brain rot doom scrolling on YouTube.
Oh, I love it. Sometimes I learn neat stuff while I'm doom scrolling.
Yeah.
There is a certain value in some doom scrolling.
I came across an interesting video on some of the asylums, the horrific mental asylums.
Oh.
Yeah. And with these asylums, I had found out that they were doing experimenting on humans, children, adults, and they were basically lobotomizing, electrocuting.
Yeah.
Electroshock.
Electroshock therapy.
And other extreme measures to try to erase their past
and their personality
and recreate them.
Try to bring them back to Locke's
Rebuild
fabled
them.
blank slate.
So
which technically is not even that's not true.
It's not feasible in this effort of the way we were doing it.
Well, it's also not true that children are born blank slates.
Yes, and it is absolutely true that we are not born completely blank slates.
Yeah.
So this was America doing all of this predominantly.
Well, be specific. This was the United States that
yes, specifically the United States that was doing this.
Have you read Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar?
No.
You should.
Yeah. I know a lot of this experimentation was also going on in Russia. Nazi Germany was doing a blank slate experimentation. And oh boy. What is it? Unit 731 or 713 from Japan. A lot of their experiments, when they weren't experimenting on humans and gas and chemicals and stuff, they were also doing blank slate type research. So the whole world is definitely guilty of human
Don't
torture.
say the whole world. Don't say the whole world. It was powerful people with powerful institutions, and not every country has that.
Touche.
Yeah.
But to end that now, I am done with Locke and his blank slate. I actually initially had a lot of hope with the blank slate, and I actually had no intention on finding that video. I was just looking for a horror story to fall asleep to, and oh boy, I found a horror story.
Oh, man. And that is, I'm just going to take a break before we jump into the guy who's just become my hero. Because it is such a case in point how these brilliant Enlightenment thinkers were close to being right. But the way their ideas were used, the way they were corrupted, perverted, warped, it created
a depravity.
The horrors of the 19th and 20th centuries.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, it's the problem with idealism. Idealists' ideas always get warped, and they create the most insane sorts of horrors. But now we are going to get into a guy whose ideas, the literal implementation of, was literally the difference between success and failure. And that is Baron de Montesquieu.
I can't believe he's only just now your hero. I seriously thought he was your hero and your, what is the word I'm looking for? Your guru, your master, your influencer, your...
No, I literally, until we did this episode, until we started the Enlightenment episodes, I had no idea who Montesquieu was. And it really wasn't until I started doing the cards for this episode that I understood who he was.
Right.
And now I'm super into him. Now I'm going to find out everything I can about this guy. He has just become my ultimate hero. Yeah. And we're going to get into why he is really cool. So he's French. France, 1689 to 1755. So again, another great thinker who passes away before French Revolution, and actually before the American Revolution. Yeah. You know, that's 1776.
Dude, he would have been so proud seeing America grow out of his ideology.
He would have been so proud.
Yeah. He would have been... I bet from heaven he's like, yeah!
He's only just now being like, what have you guys done? You forgot everything. Okay.
I'm terrified now.
Yeah. So he's absolutely equal and important to the likes of John Locke and Voltaire. His actual name, I looked this up because at first everywhere I went, I was like, it was said Baron de Montesquieu. And I'm like, why are we just calling this guy by his title? So I did look up his name.
Forever long.
I did not write down the other barony. He's actually a baron of two different places, but his name was Charles Louis de Secondon. And of course you know him as... if you know him at all, actually, Baron de Montesquieu. Let's see. I think that first card was just more me singing
his praises.
I had to skip. Okay, so he also wrote this work called The Persian Letters. I skipped it on the cards, but The Persian Letters were a fantastic bit of humorous satire. One of the things that I think sets Montesquieu a little bit apart from some of his contemporaries is that he wasn't really a firebrand, but he was a comic. He was very, very humorous. And he writes the Persian Letters where he pretended to be a foreigner in order to lambast the customs, the monarchy, the church. He just lambasts Europe. Everybody finds these letters hysterical, even as they realize they are the joke. Right? So he's an extremely good political comedian. I think that political comedy remains... for all time, the very best defense to freedom that mankind has at the end of the day. It almost... We could do an entire episode... We could do a series of episodes on how political commentary has saved humanity over and over again.
Right.
Montesquieu is one of these. Or at least that's where he starts out. But then, in 1748, he wrote a book which secured his legacy as one of the intellectual greats that will absolutely immortalize him. This is a name, if you do not know, you need to know. That book was called The Spirit of Laws, and it constructed the architecture for the separation of powers within a government. Right. And he's very specific about how the powers need to be separated. The judiciary, the executive, and the legislative. Yeah. So the legislative makes the laws, the executive enacts the laws, the judiciary enforces the law. Yeah. And he's very interested in ideas of justice.
Oh yeah.
He really takes to breaking down that in order for a government, you know, he's working off these same ideas as Locke and Voltaire. So if government is to protect the natural rights of man, Rousseau's natural rights of man, then it has to have this system of checks and balances.
Absolutely.
In order, like, this is the necessary framework, he argues, in order to actually protect the rights of the people. Yeah. And government, he also argues, now, there is some critique of this. He argues that law and government arises naturally from the... you're absolutely right. I see now why you said you thought he was already my hero, because as I'm about to say this, I'm like, I've literally made this argument myself. I have. It's true.
I know.
That law and government arises naturally from the needs of the culture and the environment of a people. As long as laws stay in tandem with the needs and the environment of the people, then they are serving the needs of the people. What happens is that law at some point diverges from the needs of people. The further it gets away, the more society breaks down and crumbles.
Yeah.
He says it's absolutely has to fit the societies they govern. Political failure occurs when laws and their application and enforcement begin to ignore context. So as soon as law starts ignoring the social context on the ground, the reality that actually exists for a people, as soon as it does that, political breakdown will inevitably occur. I'm speechless at how brilliant this guy is, right? And like, wow, we've just proven it right over and over again. So, I'm going to not follow the cards a little bit. I just really want to make a point here for a moment about how Montesquieu's ideas were baked into the American Revolution.
Absolutely.
From the beginning, when they sat down in the Continental Congress and they created the system of government,
they took Montesquieu's ideas.
Took Montesquieu's ideas in specific to create the judicial, the congressional, or legislative, and the executive branches. And, for better or worse, that created a fairly instantaneous and reliable government that stabilized super quickly.
Yeah.
It's only now, through the corruption of institution, beginning to destabilize. So, 250 years, which is the lifespan of republics. No, not empires. Republics. Republics have democracies, people will say, in a somewhat lazy fashion, not understanding that a democracy is a type, a republic is a type of democracy. But not all democracies are republics.
Oh.
Okay, just to be clear.
Okay.
But a republic-style system has a general lifespan of around 250 years, and then they, like every other institution, become corrupted fairly quickly at that point, and they kind of fall apart. It remains to be seen, since the United States was the first nation to apply Montesquieu's ideas, to see how it will manage this moment where we're at that mark. In fact, this is 2026. We are actually quite exactly at the 250-year mark. And we are, as you can see, in the state of flux that any republic would be going through right at this moment. So, will Montesquieu's system hold is literally the question of today, and I'm telling you, most Americans don't know who this guy is.
Oh yeah, no, I know most Americans don't know. I'm shocked that you didn't, though.
I am also shocked that I didn't. I really do get it. Let's see. So, in France, incidentally, when they're making these committees, and we're going to get into the revolution and its committees, but one of the things it absolutely failed to do was it just ignored Montesquieu altogether. It never created this separation of powers.
Yeah.
And so it continued to try to centralize authority. That centralized authority just created one variation of despotism and terror after another. So Montesquieu is the literal difference between a revolution succeeding and a revolution absolutely failing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it is the literal difference. This separation of powers. I do want to mention some other stuff about him, just because I got so into him politically, or like philosophically. He is among those who, as I mentioned, absolutely lampooned the monarchies of Europe. But he was unique in understanding that it wasn't really as simple as republic good, monarchy bad.
Yeah, right?
Right? He was more nuanced and interesting than that. He said that both have certain specific strengths and qualities.
Right.
I could have really gotten into this, but I was going to go on and on. Both could be corrupted. He argued that every system of government functions with its own internal logic.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you corrupt that logic, liberty dies. A monarchy can provide liberty, but if you corrupt the logic of the monarchy, then liberty dies. And a republic can protect the liberty of the people, but again,
once it becomes corrupted,
liberty dies. So, he's really not as, he was making this argument as much for the implementation of constitutional monarchies as he was also for republics. And England is kind of the weird exception here to this rule, because he was using, he deeply observed the constitutional monarchy system that England already had. England had this thing about being a free people, going all the way back to their fight with Rome.
Oh,
so the people in England,
English history.
Yeah, English history is
medieval history.
The rights of the people, as sort of a generalized concept, were always a particular thorn in the side of the English monarchy. You had the Scots fighting them, you had the Irish fighting them.
You had the Vikings invading.
Yeah, the people of the British Isles had a demand for personal autonomy
for a very long time.
Yeah. And the result was that by Montesquieu's time, they already had a constitutional monarchy.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I mean, they had a parliament, and they had a monarch.
Yes. Now, mind you, this is before King George, which is weirdly where we started this entire journey. This is 1776 when you get the Declaration of Independence and stuff like that. King George the Mad King going nuts, creating a situation in which his parliament literally further collapsed the power. Well, they did. They effectively collapsed the power of the monarchy.
Yeah. Crazy how High on History made a full circle.
Full circle. Our very first episode was Why Was King George Mad? So Montesquieu is essentially, and this is before we start using the phrase rule of law.
Yeah.
Right? But Montesquieu is one of the first who makes the argument that a stable system, a valid system of government, must be based on the law applying with justice to protect the rights of the people.
Right.
Oh, and he was super into criminal justice.
Oh, dude, he rewrote so much criminal law. Like, that man had,
his work is the basis for the jury trial system.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was deeply against torture. He argued, basically his essential argument in a nutshell is that the punishment must fit the crime.
Yeah.
That seems so obvious to us today.
Now, but yeah.
But he's, somewhat radical in his moment by just being like, dude, you don't execute guys for stealing a loaf of bread. That's freaking nuts.
Right.
So again, where he was implemented, we got a system of justice. As it was applied to white men, let's be clear.
Yeah, right.
But was ultimately expanded to include others because his system works to expand rights.
Yep.
Whereas where it was not implemented, in the terror, people were getting murdered for wrongthink.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could literally just have the wrong ideas, and that was guillotine off with your head.
Right.
So where he was not implemented, It's terrible. He also is the one who argues first that judges only have the authority to apply existing law.
Yep.
They don't have the right to
make law.
Make it up at the bench.
Yep.
So again, could not be more important. This is also the basis of the initial American judicial system. Now, I would argue that is a little too limited. Part of the power of the judicial branch is not just applying the law, but interpreting the law in a way that, again, expands and protects the natural rights of the people.
And that's what he means.
That is what he means. I just felt
not interpreting, not being able to make up the laws.
But also, if the law is a bad law,
a judge can rule however he feels fit to the trial.
And that's where we kind of do draw a little bit of a line. We at some point say, hey, this actually encroaches on the rights of man, ergo it cannot be legal. That is the power of the judiciary.
Oh, yeah. And if a judge has to rule this doesn't fit, then yeah.
The fact that we have judges who seem absolutely uneducated in
their job.
In this very basic bit that is the basis for all American jurisprudence is shocking.
Oh, yeah.
And dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
This is why we have to know history. Sorry, we swore we were not going to get political, and then we discovered the French Revolution and the Enlightenment. I'm so sorry.
We've gone slight.
Yeah. Let's see here. I've said all that.
Closing thoughts?
Yeah. Yep, I basically just said part of this, but I wrote it down more articulately on the card.
Yeah.
Before this episode, I had very little to no idea who Baron de Montesquieu was. Truly. I didn't know how his work was foundational to the founding of my own nation, and that is an effing shame. There's no good reason. I am a product of the 90s school system. I am so sorry.
Me too.
I am so sorry. But see, this is why, you become autodidactic. You get yourself an education, right?
I took a philosophy class in high school, and part of when we got into philosophical politics, Montesquieu is number one that I had to study, and dude, he was 90% of my grade for that semester.
It is possible that I, technically learned about him at some point in high school, but then just, blanked him with all the other names and dates that didn't mean anything to me. It's possible.
I mean, probably not, because, like I said, I didn't learn about him unless I was in that philosophy class.
Nobody explained Montesquieu to me in a way that made him a person. Now he's a person to me, and I am so excited to learn more. This is why you become autodidactic. You go out there, you teach yourself.
Yep.
Abandoning his structure now.
Yeah.
If we do that now, if we continue to do that, it will lead to the same outcomes we saw in France. It's literally algebraic. This is just straight calculus.
Uh-huh. Oh, absolutely.
Education remains our single greatest defense.
Yeah.
To protect human dignity and liberty. It is. Education is key. Learn. Learn about this. Learn about the Enlightenment. Learn how it went so right and so wrong at the same time. I can't think of a more important lesson for Americans.
History repeats itself. Pay attention. Is really what we're trying to say. History repeats itself, and through the lack of education, we allow it.
Yep. So, thank you so much for joining us. Sorry it got all, serious at the end, but live long and prosper. We love you guys.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, shout out to Green Health, drop a comment below, tell us you love us. Bye.